The sun had barely begun to rise when Daniel pushed open the back gate of Silvercrest International School. The cold air nipped at his cheeks, and a fine mist hovered over the manicured lawn like a ghostly veil. Daniel, dressed in his usual faded work jacket and steel-toed boots, maneuvered his mop cart across the cobblestone path. The school stood silent, a towering structure of glass and stone, gleaming with wealth, a place where children were dropped off in tinted SUVs, their shoes shinier than Daniel's entire uniform. He didn't mind. He had a job. He had Leo. Leo, his 9-year-old son, peeked out from the supply closet they called the morning nest. Daniel had quietly arranged with the head custodian to let his boy wait there before classes. Began a thermos of soup in one hand, a puzzle book in the other. They didn't have anyone to watch Leo before school, but Leo never complained. As Daniel started his usual routine, dusting, emptying bins, polishing trophy cabinets, he passed through the courtyard and saw her again. The girl on the stone bench, she was always there at the same time, alone, perfectly still, thin arms wrapped around her knees, her backpack resting beside her like a loyal pet. Long black hair framed her pale face, and her eyes wide, alert. Searching gave the impression that she was constantly listening to something no one else could hear. Her name was Ava. He knew that from the staff whispers. She never spoke. Not to teachers, not to students. Not even when she was introduced in class. She hadn't said a word in 6 months, they said. Some said it was psychological. Others muttered that she was spoiled or strange. But Daniel didn't believe that. He had seen the way her eyes lit up when she watched the birds in the trees, or how she carefully avoided stepping on ants as she walked. Something about her reminded him of Leo. In those dark weeks after his mother's passing, silent, afraid to feel anything too deeply. Children felt things more than adults gave them credit for. That morning, as Daniel swept near the garden path, a breeze tugged at Ava's scarf and blew it toward him. He caught it mid-air, holding it out gently. She didn't move at first, just watched him with those giant eyes. Daniel knelt slowly, so as not to frighten her, and set the scarf down on the bench beside her. "You dropped this," he said softly, with a warm smile. No response, no nod, just those eyes. He didn't expect, thanks. He simply nodded and stood up, walking away. From the corner of his eye, he saw her fingers reach for the scarf and pull it tight around her neck, almost like a shield. The next day, he left a small paper bird folded from a napkin on the bench before she arrived. When he passed by later, it was gone. And that's how it began, not with words, but with the quietest conversation 2 wounded hearts could have. The morning sky was gray with soft drizzle. When the alarm drill suddenly blared through the school speakers, a shrill, deafening scream that bounced off the marble floors and glass walls of silver. Children screamed in surprise, then laughed nervously as they scrambled into lines, guided by teachers shouting instructions. Chaos erupted in the hallways as footsteps echoed in panic, but amidst all that movement, no one noticed the small figure, frozen near the back exit of the auditorium. Ava stood alone, her hands clamped tightly over her ears, her body trembling violently. Her backpack had fallen, her knees buckled, and her face had gone pale. She wasn't screaming, she wasn't crying, but the fear in her eyes was unmistakable, raw, paralyzing. She had been alone when the alarm went off, caught mid-step while walking between music and art class, without anyone nearby, and the sound, that horrible sound, had pulled something deep and terrible from inside her. Memories she didn't have words for, only sensations. Fire, screaming, glass breaking, a man's voice calling her name, and then ... silence. From across the courtyard, Daniel had just finished locking up the gardening tools when he spotted her. At first, he wasn't sure, but then he saw her fall to her knees. Asterisk, without hesitation, he dropped his clipboard and ran. Asterisk, Ava, he called softly, slowing down as he neared. He didn't want to startle her further. Asterisk, she didn't look up. She rocked slightly, her small body caving inward, as if trying to disappear. Asterisk, Daniel knelt a few feet away. It's just a drill, he said gently. You're okay. I'm here. Asterisk, still no response. Her breathing was shallow and fast, like a trapped bird. Asterisk, Daniel didn't touch her. Instead, he sat cross-legged, just beside her, creating a quiet bubble in the middle of the noise. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a little paper fox, the one Leo had made that morning while waiting in the closet. Asterisk, Leo said this one was for you. Daniel said quietly, placing the fox on the ground between them. He thinks you're brave. Asterisk, she blinked. The slightest movement. Asterisk. Then Daniel did something unexpected. He began humming. Asterisk, it was the lullaby his late wife used to sing, soft, lilting, almost like wind rustling through leaves. He didn't sing the words, just hummed. His voice was warm, a little rough around the edges, but steady. The melody wrapped around the two of them like a blanket. Asterisk, Ava's rocking slowed. Her fingers relaxed just a little. Her eyes, wide with panic a moment before, now softened, curious, uncertain. Asterisk, then, like the faintest breeze passing through trees, came a whisper. Asterisk, safe. Asterisk, Daniel's heart nearly stopped. Did you? Asterisk, Ava slowly turned her face toward him. Safe, she whispered again, barely audible, but her lips had moved. Her voice had returned. Asterisk, tears stung his eyes, but he swallowed them down. He didn't want to frighten her. Asterisk, he smiled instead. Yes, he said. You are. Asterisk, neither of them noticed the black SUV parked beyond the school gates, engine idling. Inside, a sharply dressed woman stared through rain-specked glass, a hand pressed against her mouth in stunned silence. Asterisk, Vivian Lancaster had just watched her daughter speak. For the first time in 2 years, Asterisk, Vivian Lancaster sat motionless in the back seat of her sleek black SUV, hands trembling in her lap. Rain drizzled down the windshield, blurring the scene before her like a watercolor painting come to life. But she had seen it clearly, painfully, beautifully. Her daughter had spoken. 2 years of silence. 2 years of sterile therapy offices, specialist appointments, and one-word reports from private tutors. 2 years of watching Ava drift further into herself. And now, a man in worn-out sneakers and janitor's overalls had done what all her resources, all her money, could not. Asterisk, Vivian opened the car door slowly, her designer heels crunching against the wet gravel. The driver started to say something, but she lifted a hand to silence him. Her eyes never left her daughter, still kneeling beside the janitor, her tiny fingers now gripping the edge of the little paper fox. Asterisk, Daniel saw her first. He stood up quickly, unsure of what was happening, instinctively wiping his palms on his uniform. Asterisk, Ava looked up. When her eyes landed on her mother, she flinched slightly, just a quick, involuntary motion, like a bird expecting a cage. Asterisk, Vivian noticed it. It cut her to the core. Asterisk, she stepped forward carefully, heels clicking. Her breath caught in her throat. For a woman who'd once silenced boardrooms with a glance, she now struggled to find words. Her voice came out hoarse. Asterisk, Ava, she whispered. The girl stared, unsure. Vivian knelt. Her expensive slacks absorbed water from the wet ground, but she didn't notice. She reached out, hesitantly, not to touch, just to be near. Asterisk, you said something, she said, voice shaking. I heard you. Asterisk, Ava nodded slowly, her fingers still holding the paper fox. Safe, she whispered, barely audible. Asterisk, Vivian closed her eyes, and when she opened them again, tears spilled down her cheeks. She didn't wipe them away. Asterisk, I didn't know how to help you, she said brokenly. I tried everything, except being there. Asterisk, Daniel stood off to the side, awkward, unsure if he should walk away. But then Vivian looked up at him, and something in her expression changed, the corporate mask cracking, revealing a mother drowning in guilt and awe. Asterisk, thank you, she said. I don't even know your name. Asterisk, Daniel, he said, almost apologetically. I'm the janitor here, and Ava's friend, I guess. Asterisk, she nodded, voice still thick. You gave me back my little girl. Asterisk, he shook his head. No, ma'am. She found her voice on her own. I just listened. Asterisk, Vivian looked at her daughter again, not as a problem to be solved, not as a fragile investment to protect, but as a child. Her child. Asterisk, I'd like to try, she whispered, her voice cracking. To listen to. Asterisk, Ava's eyes filled with tears, and for the first time in 2 years, she stepped forward and wrapped her arms around her mother's neck. Asterisk, Vivian sobbed, her hands encircling her daughter, holding her like something sacred. Asterisk, Daniel turned away quietly, leaving mother and daughter beneath the soft rain, the paper fox fluttering gently in the wind, like a promise. Asterisk,